for 78 days, killing at least 2,500 innocent civilians and injuring around 10,000 people, most of whom civilians. Over the past 2 decades or so, the U.S. conducted tens of thousands of airstrikes in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia, and other places. The number of the innocent civilians killed can be anywhere between 22,000 and 48,000. Before professing its concern for the Ukrainian people, shouldn't the U.S. first express concern over the civilian casualties caused by all these military operations? China has all along held an objective and just position on the Ukraine issue. Since the conflict broke out, we have been taking concrete measures to promote peace talks. Our just position and constructive efforts, witnessed by all, have received the understanding and support of the international community, especially the vast developing world. What China provides to Ukraine are much needed humanitarian supplies such as food, baby formula, sleeping bags, quilts, and damp-proof mats. What the U.S. provides to Ukraine are lethal weapons. On March 16, the U.S. announced an additional $800 million in security assistance to Ukraine, bringing the total U.S. security assistance to Ukraine to $1 billion in the past week. And we'll also share with you a fact sheet read out by Mr. Price. The new package provided to Ukraine includes, among others, 800 anti-aircraft systems, 9,000 anti-armor weapons and systems, nearly 7,000 small arms, including machine guns and grenade launchers, over 20 million rounds of small arms ammunition and grenade launcher and mortar rounds. Will the latest U.S. assistance of weapons bring stability and security to Ukraine, or will it cause more civilian casualties in that country? Which do the civilians in Ukraine need more? Food and sleeping bags, or machine guns and mortar rounds? It won't be difficult for anyone with rationality and common sense to make the right judgment. White House Press Secretary Jim Psaki said there are discussions about ways to support Ukrainian refugees. Do you have any comment? China is gravely concerned about the worsening humanitarian situation in Ukraine, and we are deeply grieved for the increasing number of civilian casualties and refugees as reported by media. The top priority is for all parties to cease fire and end the fighting, exercise utmost restraint, ensure the safety and basic humanitarian needs of civilians, and prevent a more massive humanitarian crisis. China attaches great importance to the humanitarian situation in Ukraine and has made a 6-point initiative. The Red Cross Society of China provided 3 batches of humanitarian supplies, and the 3rd batch is mainly used to help the Ukrainian Red Cross Society to deliver relief to displaced children affected by the conflict. We welcome all initiatives and measures proposed by all parties with a view to alleviating and resolving the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. You just mentioned there are discussions in the US about ways to support Ukrainian refugees. We hope the US can take concrete actions to follow through on the discussions as soon as possible. Millions of refugees have been emerging out of the Ukrainian crisis. What role did the US play? What is the root cause of the ongoing refugee crisis? What are the due responsibilities and obligations the US should assume? How could the situation evolve to where it is today if it's not for the serious imbalanced regional security caused by NATO's 5 waves of eastward expansion? Did the countries insisted on NATO's eastward expansion despite opposition envisioned the suffering of the refugees today? Aren't they most responsible for accepting those refugees? On top of the 11 million refugees who have their families destroyed and displaced due to the 20-year-long war by the US in Afghanistan, another 2.6 million refugees fleeing the Russian-Ukrainian conflict have entered European countries. However, the US is still looking on and fooling its European allies. During a visit to Poland, the US Vice President was asked about a question on whether the US would accept Ukrainian refugees, but he didn't directly respond to that. Instead, tried to muddle through with a laughter. As the one who initiated and instigated the current conflict, the US is hypocritical on the issue of refugees. This is very ironic and speaks volume. We should ponder this.
Ahead of tonight's call between President Xi and President Biden, the U.S. Secretary of State has been said
布林肯国务卿说，拜登将在与习主席的会晤中表明，中方将为支持俄罗斯付出代价。中方对此有何回应？习主席今天会和拜登总统说一些什么内容？今天的会晤会有什么预定的成果？On your first question on the Ukraine issue, China has always adopting an unbiased and fair attitude, making its independent judgment based on the merits of the matter itself. China always believes the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries should be respected, and the principles and purposes of UN Charter should be abided by, and the rational security concerns of all parties should be valued, and all efforts conducive to peaceful settlement should be supported. Our position is above board, fair, objective, and beyond reproach. In fact, this is also inconsistent with the position of the vast majority of countries. Certain people in the US have been spreading disinformation, slandering China, and pressuring it. This is very irresponsible and cannot help at all to solve the problem. We firmly reject that and will never accept it. The US should reflect upon the role it has played in the Ukraine crisis, earnestly assume as due responsibilities, make concrete actions to ease tension and resolve the conflict, instead of add oil to the fire and shift blame onto others. With regard to the meeting between the two presidents, the two heads of state of China and US maintain communications through various means. Regarding the communication this time, you must have seen the information released by the Chinese side. President Xi Jinping, upon invitation, will exchange views with President Biden on China-US relations and issues of common interest. Regarding the specifics, you may stay tuned and we will release the readout in a timely manner. Next question, please.
Does China see the possibility for the leaders of the two countries to work together to end the war in Ukraine?
中方是否认为双方元首有可能共同致力于合作并解决俄乌危机，结束战争？ I believe the two presidents will indeed discuss the issues of regional and global significance of common interest, of course, including the Ukraine issue. It's an important opportunity for the two to exchange views on the Ukraine crisis. Let's wait and see for the outcomes to come out. Next question, please. Anyone else? Nothing else? Kaixin
The US Secretary of State yesterday repeated President Biden's assertion that Russian forces are committing war crimes.
布林肯昨天再次重复了拜登的原话，说，俄罗斯犯了战争罪。你说到中国也意识到了在乌克兰平民伤亡的大规模。那么，这个民营伤亡是不是有可能是俄方部队造成的？ 如果是的话，是不是会探讨这方面的问题？ I have been taking multiple questions on civilian casualties these days. China is deeply grieved about civilian casualties. I don't see any need for you to dwell on such issues. And I also got a question for you. As a journalist with AFP, as an European mainstream media outlet, and also as a member of the press, you should also do some soul searching. The US is the culprit of the Ukraine crisis. Why have the Americans been denigrating China instead of reflecting upon the persistent eastward expansion of NATO that led to the security crisis in Europe? Why didn't the US follow the advisory